Hello and welcome to week 2 of the Hockey Shed, brought to you by Galvanised Hockey. For those of you that are joining us for the first time, a very warm welcome. For those of you that watched last week and have come back again, welcome and thanks for coming back. You'll notice with me today on the Shed sofa I have a very special guest, double Olympian with 164 international caps. It's only Dan Fox.
Hi Russ, nice to be here.
Dan, welcome. So, if you can start by telling us a little bit about what you've been up to.
Yeah, well, since I retired after the Rio Olympics, I've set up my own business. It's called one-to-one-hockeycoaching.co.uk, and basically it's an opportunity for anyone out there who's a hockey player to book a session with one of the top players or coaches from around the country. So we've got some of the current Great Britain squad, some retired players, and some top coaches, and you can go on the website, book a session. And this time next week, you could be having a coaching session from Ian Sloan or Zoe Shipley or even me.
How long's that been going for?
Well, we set it up over the summer and we've had 4 weeks of active bookings. So there's some one-to-one hockey coaching, and it's actually kind of expanded out into some stuff with clubs. So we do a range of masterclass sessions for both junior and adult club sections, and we've started to deliver some coach education, which I'm really excited about.
And you said you've retired from international hockey. You haven't yet played any club hockey this season. How are you finding having that bit of extra spare time?
Yeah, this has been my first summer off in 10 years probably, and it was fantastic. In fact, I've just had a first child, so it wasn't...
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Not entirely restful. I didn't get much sleep last night, but no, it's been brilliant. It's been really nice. And I'm still playing for Holcombe, and I'll be playing this weekend against Seven Oaks, so really looking forward to it. Yeah.
Good luck with that. So I mean, one of the things that I found when I was injured one season, I woke up on a Saturday and managed to go for a shop and did a little run in the morning, and I got back and it was only 11 o'clock and the whole day was still in front of me, and it's you forget how consuming like hockey can be in your life. And have you found now that sort of with the international sort of responsibilities out the way, and obviously a new responsibility that's come into your life that's probably slightly more important, that your balance of your life has shifted? And
it's a funny mix. I think when you're playing hockey, life is quite simple. There's one thing you're focused on, particularly if you're involved in the Olympic training squad. You're looking forward to one thing every 4 years. I definitely thought that after London 2012, we came fourth. It was a real sense of unfinished business, and if I could play until Rio and keep getting better, I'd be absolutely delighted. So I always had that in my mind, and because it's a 4-year cycle, there was no way I was going to carry on for another 4 years. So I knew that was going to be the end. And I won't say I don't miss it. And there are certain things about it which I loved and always will love, think really fondly about. But at the same time, you know, I knew there were a lot of good young players coming through, and I'm kind of happy to leave the squad in what looks like a really strong position at the moment.
And if we look back on Rio, the dust has very much settled now on the campaign. You've retired from internationals, so that connection's not quite so there. In terms of sort of an autopsy, if you will, of what happened there, how do you see the squad's campaign and what you did well and what you did badly and what can be improved upon for future generations?
Such a strange set of memories looking back at Rio from the men's side perspective, because I was there and I watched the women win that gold medal, and we were in the same block of flats, and it was just such an unbelievable experience. And a lot of the things that we would have got from winning a gold medal, hockey achieved anyway, like all the increased participation, just the positive vibes around the sport. But clearly we spent 4 years preparing for Rio, and it was a massive disappointment. And I think we've reflected a lot on the reasons why. And in that competition, the 5th and the 7th best teams ended up in the final and won a silver and gold medal. And I think Belgium and Argentina played really well in that tournament, and a few things went for them and a few things didn't go for us. But it demonstrates that I think particularly the men's game is incredibly tight between the top 12 sides. And yeah, there were specific things which I think, looking back on that 4-year cycle, we didn't convert a lot of short corners, for example. So there are specifics that we looked at, and I know that the squad now moving forward have got their eye on that kind of thing to make sure that they don't miss any opportunities. But yeah, it was incredibly difficult at the time, but also a strange sensation because the women had this incredible achievement, and it was hard not to get caught up in the positivity of that, which is just, as a hockey fan, it was fantastic.
Looking at that Rio GB squad, if you guys were doing a tackle box, who would you be confident you could take the ball off, and who would you be slightly more concerned is going to get past you?
Well, the person I've been most satisfied at tackling is Barry Middleton, because he's like a little ferret. It's so difficult to tackle. He's always there. You never get past him. And when you do, it's just really satisfying. Who would I most be confident about tackling? I wouldn't be too worried if Michael was running at me with a hockey ball. I mean, he's a brilliant defender, but I don't know how quick he is. I don't know how fast he is. And then maybe Ali Brogdon's pretty difficult to tackle because he's so quick. And, it's great to see him back in the league playing this weekend.
Before you came on the show, we put out a tweet of a sort of blurred image of you, asking if people wanted to guess who our guest was going to be this week. And we had a guess from a certain George Pinner that you mentioned earlier. Suggesting Gareth Keenan was going to come on, George did make a sort of a fairly heavy impression last week with Ross Bones' anecdote of the Pinner pantsing. I think it almost got its own hashtag at one point. So we were wondering if, with your close friendship with him, you perhaps had a Pinner anecdote of your own you wanted to share with us.
It's funny that Ross mentioned that George tried to pull his pants down, because having spent a lot of time in hotel rooms with George, I mean, he spends a lot of time just in a pair of pants, which is a shocking sight to see. His selection of underwear is truly appalling. I really feel for Joe Hunter, his wife, Joe Pinner now, in the ladies' squad. I mean, terrifying sight.
Okay, and on George Pinner's pants, it's probably an appropriate time to move on to our next topic of conversation, which is going to be the results of the Men's Premier League from this weekend. We've got them in front of us now. I was wondering if you wanted to have give us your thoughts on some of the results we've had this weekend. A pretty comprehensive win there for Reading at home to Canterbury.
Yeah, I think both Reading and Surbiton have really set out their stall, scored a lot of goals in their first two games, and I think they're going to be two of the sides competing for those top four playoff positions at the end of the season. It's interesting for Reading, new coach with Jason Lee. They've got a lot of good young players, like Nick Parks scored in this game against Canterbury. He's one to watch, playing the European Championships for the under-21 side, 3 years young this year. So I think they're a really strong side, and the same with Surbiton. I mean, it's not often Surbiton scores 6 goals and Alan Forsyth doesn't score any. So it shows that they've got real strength in depth.
Yeah, I mean, and those if you've not seen them, if you watch the Monday Night Hockey highlights, there's some ferocious flicks there from Luke Taylor. He seems to be having no difficulty at all finding the back of the net, which is amongst those 6 goals, you've also got an incredible strike from James Gould, and then what a lot of people are talking about is the kind of wonder goal from David Goodfield, where he's just bounced it on the volley and gone past at the near post. And 6 phenomenal goals there.
Yeah, it's what dreams are made of, the old one-touch, half volley, smash it in the back of the net. But yeah, I think Luke Taylor's had a bad 12 months with injury. He's back this season. I think him scoring goals for Surbiton and hopefully as well for England and Great Britain will be a massive, massive attribute for them.
And we talked at some length last week about the strength and depth in the Wimbledon squad, and they've been held to another draw at home, this time to Hampstead and Westminster.
Yeah, I think Hampstead and Westminster were an unfashionable club for a long time, but actually with Kwan Brown as head coach, they've attracted some good players, and last season they made the playoffs for the first time. I think they're going to be a real strong side this year, and that game was really tight. I mean, 2 great flicks from Hampstead, from Matt Guys-Brown, who scored, I think, 15 goals last season, and Dowds, who scored an absolute slaughter top right-hand corner. I think both Wimbledon and Hampstead are going to be up there in the top 4, and probably the other side that might cause a few problems for teams is Beeston, who looked really strong and got the win against Holcombe in probably a bit of a scrappy game. But it was interesting to see 2 ex-Holcombe players on the score sheet for Beeston, Gareth Andrew and Sam Ward. I'm not sure how happy the Holcombe faithful would have been about that.
Oh, you couldn't have asked for a more awkward result, could you? And then the other one we haven't discussed, which is Brooklands, who narrowly pipped East Grinstead 4-3.
Yeah, I've never met a player or coach who likes going all the way to Manchester and losing a hockey match. I mean, that was East Grinstead's first game, because their first match against Holcombe was postponed. Really tough start. And I think the thing you're going to get with Brooklands is they're going to be organised, they're going to be disciplined. And at home, they're going to be really difficult to beat. They're beating the likes of Wimbledon and Reading over the last couple of seasons. They're a really strong side at home.
And if we have a look at the standings in the table now and how that's left things, Surbiton and Reading played 2 and 1-2 each, so they're both sort of sat first and second respectively. Same number of goals as well. Anything in there that's intriguing you again? It's still only week 2, but it's nice to have a look at it and see what thoughts are going forward.
It's not looking great for the Kent sides with Canterbury, Sevenoaks and Holcombe propping up the table. I think it is going to be a tough season for Canterbury and Sevenoaks. Sevenoaks, just because they don't have a lot of National League experience in the Premier Division. They're a really, really organised side. They did incredibly well to get promoted. They've got a lot of talent, but experience does count. And then Canterbury, who knows? I mean, they've been bottom of the table at Christmas 4 or 5 times and survived. So I would never write them off. But it's interesting to see those 3 sides down the bottom at the moment.
It is. All right, if we turn our attention to the ladies' results, starting again at Surbiton, who took results against Clifton with a 3-1 win. Did you get to see any of that?
Yeah, I saw the highlights. The thing about Surbiton is not only do they have a host of gold medal winning Olympians, they've also got a squad which is incredibly strong. So Sarah Page played brilliantly in that game. She's a quality player. Hannah Martin looked fantastic.
She looked really sharp, didn't she?
Really sharp. She had a really good summer, and the 2 goals looked pretty strong. And then Petta popped up with the third, and they're going to be a difficult side to dislodge from the top of the table.
And the next result we're looking at here is Holcombe, who beat University of Birmingham 3-1. University of Birmingham, do you think they're going to be scratching their heads a little bit as to what's going on with them at the moment?
They've got a host of talented youngsters, but they don't have a lot of experienced players who've been in the Premier League for 4 or 5 years, and that's always going to be a challenge for Birmingham. I mean, because they've got a lot of exciting players, not least Lily Owsley, who scored that fantastic goal, I think they're going to pose a lot of teams a challenge. But they're gonna find some of these battles tough, as they did on Sunday against Holcombe. And
Bowden and Slough was a 0-0 draw, so probably not a huge amount to talk about with that one. Leicester 2, East Grinstead 0.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see where East Grinstead's goals come from. I mean, they haven't scored in their first 2 games, although they were very close against Holcombe. But that's going to be a big thing for them, I think.
Buckingham, who went to a 4-2 win against Canterbury.
Yeah, I think that's a massive win for Buckingham. Having been promoted, lost their first game against Slough, all of a sudden there'll be a few nerves, people getting into the league for the first time. Are we going to get our first result? And they scored those 3 corners in the first half, and the game was over as a battle, really.
It's one of those things I actually am quite sad in that I wait till Monday Night Hockey to kind of have my catch up with the results all in one go. And when the first goal went in, and then the second goal went in, and then the third goal went in, I was like, wow, what's happening here? They did really well. It's a really interesting result, and hopefully boosted them up into the middle of the table as well now. So if we have a look at the ladies' table, we've got Surbiton at the top with Slough in second, Bowden in third. Buckingham have gone up into 5th. University of Birmingham, as we said, at the bottom there, with East Grinstead just above them. Anything in there that's caught your eye? No,
obviously I'm biased, but I think that Holcombe side is pretty strong. They've got a few players back. Leah Wilkinson's taking a much stronger role in the coaching. Steph Elliott's just returned from Australia, scored a great finish. I think they're going to be a tough side to beat. Clearly, Surbiton are going to be the side to catch. And then the rest, I think, will sort itself out over the next 5 or 6 weeks as sides play a few more games.
Yeah, and that Steph Elliott goal is the Investec goal of the week, so do check that out on the Galvanised Media feed if you get the chance. Okay, so Dan, before we wrap things up here, we could have a quick look forward to the EHL Euro Hockey League Round 1, which takes place this weekend in Barcelona. We've got a home nation represented in each of the 4 pools which are taking place this weekend. But of particular note, I think, is Wimbledon, who find themselves yet again facing one of the tough top Dutch teams. They've got Bloemendaal. What are your thoughts on the weekend's EHL action?
Yeah, it's interesting because those first round games don't come any tougher than playing one of the top sides in Holland, and the draw has not been kind to Wimbledon because basically they need to win that game against Bloemendaal, who are a superb side. Wimbledon are best placed to do that. They've had a superb run in the EHL last year. Got through to the final 4 with a difficult draw, and that period at the end of the English hockey season where they've got 5 or 6 weeks without a fixture, and then into the semi-finals of the EHL. So I think that didn't do them any favours. And I really think they could cause Bloemendaal trouble. They've got a fantastic squad.
They do. They've got I think Tim Yenniskins and Florian Fuchs and also the return of a certain Mr. Dwyer, who's just flown back into Holland to start the season for Bloemendaal. So there's no shortage of skill and talent and things involved there. But like you say, Wimbledon are pretty well placed to do that. There's also Banbridge, Kelburn and Cardiff and Met playing in the other pool games. So good luck to all of those guys. And we'll hopefully probably have a review of those results next week. Well, I think that's just about it from now for us here at the Hockey Shed. I'd like to thank Mr. Dan Fox for sparing his time and his brilliant knowledge with us. Congratulations once again on the new edition. How long before we're putting a little hockey stick in their hands?
She's 7 months now, so, you know, within the year.
Good stuff. Something to look forward to there. Something else to look forward to is the Hockey Shed next week. We'll look forward to seeing you all then. Thanks again.